It's time to tap into our nostalgia, just like Disney and Square Enix did by bringing Kingdom Hearts to life and build Sora as a playable character in Dungeons & Dragons. I did build Sora from Kingdom Hearts before, but that was in the earliest days of my channel. There's been a lot of updates in Dungeons & Dragons since then, so Sora definitely deserves an update as well, at least while we wait for the next Kingdom Hearts to come out. If you want to follow along with the character sheet, they're available up on Patreon, and I happen to slip in a very secret, hidden idea into the character, and I'm not sure if anybody's ever going to find it, but I put it on the character sheet anyways. But anyways, let's go ahead and build Sora, starting with the species. He's slightly shorter than a lot of the other characters, but according to Kingdom Hearts and Square Enix, he is officially 5'2". However, he still has those big honkin' feet, and one character that's a bit shorter and happens to have big old feet is a halfling, because halflings are essentially hobbits. Becoming a halfling gives you halfling nimbleness, so you can move through the space of any creature that is a size larger than you, but you can't stop in the same place. And this D&D mechanic actually plays in a lot within Kingdom Hearts, because there's so many fights that you are running between the legs of very tall creatures. Halflings also get the feature Brave, so they have advantage on saving throws to avoid getting frightened, and they have Luck. So whenever you roll a 1 on a d20 test, you can re-roll the die, but you must use the new roll. The last feature you get, which might not really apply to Sora, is Naturally Stealthy. So you can take the hide action when you are obscured only by a creature that is at least one size larger than you. This is really hammering home the idea that halflings are only small creatures. When it comes to a background, Sora, Donald, and Goofy are kind of outcasts that just wander through the worlds of Disney. Not to mention the original 3 outcasts from Destiny's Island, Sora, Riku, and Kairi, all of which kind of feel like they fit with the Wayfarer background. This background gives us skill proficiencies in Insight and Stealth, as well as tool proficiencies with Thieves' Tools, and we get the Lucky feat. So we get a number of luck points equal to our proficiency bonus, which we can use to get advantage on a d20 test or force disadvantage on an attack against you. Then when it comes to a class, you are essentially bonding with your keyblade. And a great way to bond with a keyblade is going with a warlock, because that keyblade is gifted to you by some mysterious power. And becoming a warlock after the 2024 update to Dungeons & Dragons allows us to choose an Eldritch Invocation right away, which also replaces the pacts that you can choose early on in the older version. So we can choose Pact of the Blade. This allows us to grab a simple or martial melee weapon, and you can bond with it. This can automatically apply to any weapon that is magical. You automatically get proficiency with this weapon, and you can use it as your spellcasting focus. When you attack with this bonded weapon, you can use your charisma modifier for the attack and damage rolls instead of strength or dexterity. And you can change the damage type to necrotic, psychic, or radiant damage. And considering we know that Kingdom Hearts is light, radiant damage is what we're going to be leaning into a lot with this build. And finally, because you have this bond with this weapon, you can actually use a bonus action to summon it to your hand, which is pretty spot on for Kingdom Hearts. First level of Warlock also gives us some Pact magic, and Pact magic for Warlocks works a little bit differently than every other class in Dungeons & Dragons, because you get much more limited spell slots. However, those spell slots are always at the maximum available casting level, leveling up just like any other caster would get access to, but maxing out at 5th level. However, because they're so limited, despite being cast at their maximum level, those spell slots recharge on a short rest. When it comes to the spells, I'm going to run through every cantrip we're going to want to grab as a warlock, even though you can only grab a few to start, but we're going to grab Sword Burst to hit everything around you, Booming Blade to hit once pretty darn hard, Eldritch Blast because it's a staple of every warlock, and this allows you to have your more magical overdrive mode thing where you're blasting and skating around like you do in Kingdom Hearts 2. And then, even though we won't be able to really make use of it now, we're going to grab True Strike. True Strike got a massive update after 2024. It will automatically make it so your spellcasting modifier is what you can use for your attack and damage rolls. We already have that covered thanks to our Eldritch Invocation though. However, once you hit 5th level overall, you can add an extra 1d6 radiant damage. 11th level boosts it to 2d6, and 17th level boosts it to 3d6. That extra radiant damage is going to come in handy later, but we just want to stash that in reserve for now. Then when it comes to some 1st level spells, there's only 2 that are probably worth grabbing. One is Charm Person, because you're pretty darn charming as Sora, but the other is actually going to start tapping into the spells that you can cast within in Kingdom Hearts, because there's a D&D equivalent to the air-based defensive spell you can cast in Kingdom Hearts, and it's Armor of Agathis. This protects you with some temporary hit points, and any creature that hits you while those temp HP are there takes some cold damage in response. It's 5 temp HP and 5 cold damage per level of spell slot used. Then at second level of Warlock, we get Magical Cunning, so instead of waiting for a short rest, you can actually regain half of your spell slots rounded up by just spending a minute, but you can only use this feature once per long rest. Also at second level, we get a couple more Eldritch Invocations. And there's one more I want to grab pretty early, and that's because you can summon so many creatures in Kingdom Hearts, so I'm going to grab Pact of the Chain. This allows you to cast the Find Familiar spell at will, and you get additional options for that familiar. Like you can summon an imp or a pseudo-dragon, and the pseudo-dragon is especially fitting because that's essentially Mushu, but you get a whole bunch of other options like a Sphinx of Wonder, which is kind of like a mini lion, I guess, so you can pretend it's Simba, or a sprite, which could basically be Tinkerbell. You do get one other Eldritch Invocation at this level, but we're going to save that for a bit, so that way we don't have to worry about swapping it out later. Third level of Warlock upgrades our spell slots to second level, meaning we can grab some more spells, and we're going to grab Suggestion, just so that way you give a pretty good speech that helps convince people of what you want to convince them of. And for some more stop type magic, we'll grab Hold Person. This will lock an enemy in place, paralyzing them, and you can automatically crit if you hit them with a melee attack. Also at third level, you get to choose a Warlock subclass. And when I built Sora originally, I went with a Hexblade. That fits super well, and it's pretty spot on. You're basically attached to your keyblade, and a Hexblade works great for that. However, I'm going to lean into the idea that Kingdom Hearts is light, and with light comes Radiant, and one of the best Radiant type Warlocks is a Celestial Warlock. Choosing a Celestial patron gives us Celestial spells, which for now will give us the spells Aid, helping out our whole party, Cure Wounds, healing us or healing somebody else with a touch, Guiding Bolt, to have a ranged-based radiant damage spell, Lesser Restoration for another way to heal somebody, and then of course you get some cantrips like Light and Sacred Flame. Also, thanks to being a Celestial Warlock at third level, you get Healing Light, giving you the ability to channel celestial energy to heal some wounds. You get a pool of D6s equal to 1 plus your Warlock level, which is a heck of a lot of D6s, and as a bonus action you can heal yourself or one creature you can see within 60 feet of you. However, the maximum amount of dice you can expend at one time is equal to your Charisma modifier. You regain all of those dice on a long rest. At 4th level of Warlock, you get an ability score improvement. So here's our starting ability scores. Decently rounded out, having a solid amount of Charisma because that's our main focus, having a little bit of Wisdom to make sure we understand the needs and motivations of our friends, having a solid amount of Constitution for some health, and the Dex is to help out our armor class. Then we're going to go ahead and throw 1 point into Charisma and Constitution. Charisma will be rounded out to an even score, being much more usable, and Constitution will come into play a bit more later. Then 5th level of Warlock upgrades our spell slots to 3rd level, giving us the Celestial spells Daylight and Revivify, and we will make sure to grab Counterspell to counter a spell being cast at us, Fly, so that way we have the ability to fly thanks to the Peter Pan level, and we'll grab Spirit Shroud. This will allow us to boost up our damage with attacks by an extra 1d8, and that damage can be Radiant if we wanted to. It can also be Necrotic or Cold, but we'll stick with Radiant. And it gets an extra 1d8 for every 2 spell slots above 3rd level. And finally, any creature that starts its turn within 10 feet of you has its speed reduced by 10 feet, which might kind of play into the gravity magic a little bit, but not a ton yet. Then finally, I want one more summoning spell, and to maybe summon Tinkerbell or play off some of the other summons, we'll grab Summon Fae. This is a really great summon because it has a flying speed, a multi-attack, it can teleport around, and it can have a specific type of Fae, which can grant advantage or create some magical darkness. We also get to choose 2 more Eldritch Invocations at this level, as well as the other one that we actually saved for this level. So to boost up our Keyblade abilities, we'll grab Eldritch Smite, which allows us to add an extra 1d8 of force damage, plus another 1d8 for every spell slot you use to smite somebody, dealing a whole bunch of force damage, and then boost up our Keyblade even further with Thirsting Blade, allowing us to get the extra attack feature, so you can attack twice instead of just once. And then the other invocation we're going to grab that we saved is Investment of the Chain Master. This is going to help with our summons a bit more. So when you cast Find Familiar, you can infuse this summon with some additional abilities. Because Warlock's Pact of the Chain allows their Find Familiars to actually do attacking, which most Find Familiars can't do. But Investment of the Chain Master will boost that up a little more, with features like Quick Attack. So you can command your summon to attack as a bonus action. You can change the summon's damage type from bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing into necrotic or radiant. If there's any saving throw that's forced by your familiar, it can now use your spell saves DC, and if your familiar would take damage, you can actually use your reaction to grant a resistance to that damage. But one last thing that it does give with this feature is aerial or aquatic. So the familiar gains a fly speed or a swim speed. And the swim speed is kind of the more important part to me because this will allow you to replicate something like aerial a bit more. Then at 6th level of Warlock, thanks to being a Celestial Warlock, you get Radiant Soul. So you have resistance to radiant damage, and once per turn, when you cast a spell that deals radiant or fire damage, you can add your charisma modifier. And since we have True Strike, which is a spell, even though it's a cantrip, you can add your charisma modifier to the damage of basic True Strike. Now that will give up your extra attack, but we will deal with that part later. 7th level of Warlock upgrades our spell slots to 4th level spells. So we're going to grab Charm Monster, and by default, thanks to being a Celestial Warlock, we get Guardian of Faith, which we can count as another one of your summons, as well as Wall of Fire. And we get one more Eldritch Invocation. And I want to make sure that in our Dungeons and Dragons build, we cover as much of the magic that Sora can cast in Kingdom Hearts. So we're going to take another Pact. This is making it so we can essentially take every original pact that you would be able to take in the 2014 version of D&D, which you wouldn't have been able to do until the 2024 update. And this third pact that we're taking gives us some additional spellcasting ability, covering more elements. So we can grab 3 cantrips from any spell list, and we get 2 1st level spells. So we're going to grab Firebolt for the fire magic, Ray of Frost for the ice magic, and then to cover our bases with thunder and lightning, we'll grab Sorcerous Burst, which can do any type of elemental damage. Then for some spells, there's not a ton that actually apply to Sora, so we're going to grab Speak with Animals, because technically Donald and Goofy are animals, so you need to be able to talk with them, as well as a lot of the other Disney creatures you're going to be running into throughout Kingdom Hearts. And then one that actually does fit surprisingly well is the spell Ceremony. This can actually give you the ability to conduct a wedding if you wanted to, but more importantly, it gives us the ability for atonement, so you can restore a creature's alignment, which is pretty helpful for bringing Riku back from the darkness. These spells were pretty limited because you're forced to choose ritual spells from Pact of the Tome, but I think these two would still fit pretty well. 8th level of Warlock gives us another ability score improvement, so we're going to go ahead and just max out our charisma. Then at 9th level of Warlock, we get access to 5th level spells, and we're going to upgrade our time magic with Hold Monster, which will allow us to freeze enemies in place, but Hold Person only allowed us to target humanoids, and Hold Monster can target basically everything. Then for a slight reference to Dream Drop Distance, we'll grab the spell Dream, allowing you or a willing creature to enter a trance-like state as a dream messenger. Also at 9th level, you get the feature Contact Patron. So now you have a way to communicate with your patron with the spell Contact Other Plane. And you get another Eldritch Invocation. So we're going to grab Life Drinker. This makes it so once per turn when you hit a creature with a pact weapon, you can deal an extra 1d6 necrotic, psychic, or radiant damage. And if you really want to, you can expend one of your hit point dice and roll it to regain a number of hit points equal to whatever you rolled, plus your constitution modifier. Then at 10th level Warlock, thanks to being a Celestial Warlock, you get Celestial Resilience, giving you temporary hit points whenever you use your magical cunning feature or you finish a short or long rest. The amount of temp HP is equal to your Warlock level plus your charisma modifier, and you can actually choose up to 5 creatures you can see to also gain some temp HP. But everybody else only gains temp HP equal to half of your Warlock level plus your charisma modifier. This feature actually stopped me from grabbing Inspiring Leader at an earlier ability score improvement. And Inspiring Leader does a lot of the same stuff, and while it would be slightly more powerful, it was so redundant I kind of had to avoid it. But you can think of this as a minorly toned down version of Inspiring Leader because Sora is all about boosting his party in Kingdom Hearts. Then at 11th level of Warlock, you get a Mystic Arcanum. This is a 6th 6th level spell that you can cast just once per day, instead of all of your other warlock stuff which recharges on a short rest. This is going to give us some way to gain access to Kingdom Hearts, I guess. There wasn't a ton of 6th level spells I thought fit really well, so I kind of had to wedge this one in, and we're going to go with Arcane Gate. It's basically a big gate you can teleport through. We'll call it Kingdom Hearts even though its range is a bit more limited. Then 12th level of Warlock gives us access to another ability score improvement, and we're going to take another feat. And this is going to tie into Kingdom Hearts 3 a bit more with Ratatouille, because we want to be able to cook some meals. So we're going to grab the feat, Chef. This allows us to boost our constitution by 1 point. It also gives us proficiency with cook's utensils, and it gives us 2 features. The first is replenishing meal. So as part of a short rest, you can prepare enough food for enough creatures equal to 4 plus your proficiency bonus. And at the end of the short rest, any creature who eats the food and spends 1 or more hit dice to regain hit points during that short rest gains an extra 1d8. Then on top of that, you get the feature bolstering treats. So with 1 hour of work, when you finish a long rest, you can cook a number of treats equal to your proficiency bonus. These treats last for 8 hours, and a creature can use a bonus action to eat one of those treats and gain a number of temp HP equal to your proficiency bonus. And also at 12th level of Warlock, you get 1 more Eldritch Invocation. And we're going to grab Devouring Blade. This requires you to already have Thirsting Blade, but it makes it so you can now attack 3 times per action. Then we're going to do a multiclass because we don't need much else from being a warlock anymore. And Kingdom Hearts is all about the power of friendship, and I think one of the best ways to really hammer this home is by multiclassing into Bard. Becoming a Bard allows us to choose 1 more skill, so we're going to grab Persuasion, and we get Bardic Inspiration, so you can inspire your allies as a bonus action, dishing out a D6, which you can do a number of times equal to your Charisma modifier. That D6 upgrades to a D8 at level 5 of Bard, and they can use it on any D20 check. You get some more Bard spellcasting as well, and there's only 2 cantrips worth grabbing. That's Vicious Mockery in case you want to spit out an insult, and Friends to make some good friends. When it comes to some first level spells, hammer in the more thunder based damage or pushing an enemy with gravity, and go with Thunder Wave and Long Strider, boosting your speed by 10 feet. Then also make sure to grab Silvery Barbs just because it's pretty good, forcing an enemy to have disadvantage on something while granting an ally advantage. 2nd level of Bard gives you expertise in 2 skills, so boost up your Persuasion and Insight because that's the friendliest of friendly skills you can have. You also get Jack of all trades, so any skill you don't have proficiency in, you automatically get at least half your proficiency bonus added to it. 3rd level of Bard gives us some more spells, and there's 2 spells that are gonna fit pretty well. One is Enlarge Reduce. This is mostly to deal with any Alice in Wonderland shenanigans. And then for the air-based defensive spell, there's a spell from Elemental Evil's player companion called Warding Wind. It's a strong wind that surrounds you in a 10-foot radius, and it has a whole bunch of effects, like it deafens you and creatures in your area, which is a bit of a downside, but it also extinguishes unprotected flames, pushes away vapor, gas, and fog, makes it difficult terrain for creatures other than you, and attack rolls of ranged weapons have disadvantage on attacks against you or just generally trying to get past this wind. Also at 3rd level, you get to choose a Bard subclass. And I was very tempted to go with lore. I did that with my original build of Sora, and it fits because the lore in Kingdom Hearts is absolutely nuts. And it would allow us to choose spells earlier from other spell lists, but that would mostly just help our summoning at this point, which we're pretty well covered. Or possibly give us the Create Spelljamming Helm spell, which is essentially creating the gummy ship, but I don't think that's the best choice. Instead, I'm going to take one of these super powered up forms from Kingdom Hearts, which will help us in a lot more ways by going with his Valor form, aka turning into a Valor Bard in D&D. Becoming a Valor Bard gives us combat inspiration, so you can use your Bardic Inspiration for new things. Like when a creature that is inspired by you gets hit by an attack, they can actually use their reaction to use the Bardic Inspiration and add it to their armor class. Or they can use it to add to their damage if they want to. But also you gain martial training, giving you proficiency with martial weapons, which you don't really need because you have your keyblade, but you also get access to medium armor and shields. Medium armor is probably the more important part because you don't usually wield a shield. That's more Goofy's territory. But having access to medium armor is pretty helpful because you only have a 14 in dexterity. So now we don't ever have to worry about boosting that up because the bonus that medium armor gets from your dexterity maxes out at 14 unless you take a feat. 4th level of being a bard gives you another ability score improvement. And I need a bit more gravity magic. So we're going to take a feat and we're going to go with telekinetic. This gives us the mage hand spell and we get telekinetic shove. So you can push a creature 5 feet closer or further away from you. It would allow us to boost up one ability score by 1 point, but it does force us to choose intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, and nothing's really going to get benefited from that since our charisma is already maxed out and everything else would just turn into an odd number. 5th level of bard gives us font of inspiration. So you can regain your bardic inspiration on a short or long rest instead of waiting for a long rest, and you get access to 3rd level bard spells. So for a bit better healing, we'll grab mass healing word, and then we'll also grab motivational speech to replace the lack of inspiring leader I wanted to grab earlier. It's another way to boost up your allies with a good pep talk and give out some temp HP, while also granting advantage on wisdom saving throws. Then we'll also grab fast friends because you're pretty good at making friends pretty quickly. And for a bit more time magic, we'll grab the spell slow, slowing down an enemy, reducing their armor class, and absolutely obliterating their action economy by forcing them to only make a bonus action or an action, but not both, and finally cutting their speed in half. 6th level of being a Valor Bard is where things suddenly get a heck of a lot better because you get the Valor Bard version of extra attack. So you get extra attack, which is fine, you already had that. But Valor Bards make it so you can cast one of your cantrips in place of one of your attacks. Usually it would replace your entire action. So now we have 3 attacks and we can swap out one of those for True Strike, giving us an extra 3d6 radiant damage on every single turn, on top of the 2 more attacks on top of that, which is a pretty considerable boost that I'm really happy about. Then at 7th level of being a bard, you get counter charm, so you can help allies resist being charmed or frightened, using your reaction to give an ally a chance to re-roll against being charmed or frightened and do so at advantage. And you also get access to 4th level spells. So we're going to grab Fount of Moonlight. This is really embracing Kingdom Hearts, so you shine with light and you deal an extra 2d6 radiant damage while you're shining like this. And finally, you can force creatures to become blinded by Kingdom Hearts with this spell. And to amp that concept up even further, at 8th level, you get an ability score improvement. And since you're such high level at this point, you get to choose an epic boon. And I was so tempted to grab the Boon of Exquisite Radiance. It's a boon that makes it so when you roll radiant damage, you can automatically roll max damage, which would be awesome. But you can only do it once per long rest. This would make it so you have one massive hit, because thanks to our current build, you have True Strike giving you 3d6 radiant damage, Spirit Shroud giving you 2d8 radiant damage. If you make your keyblade a greatsword, that is another 2d6 radiant damage. And Life Drinker gives you another 1d6, plus your basic 5 charisma from being a celestial warlock and 5 charisma from your Pact weapon, bringing you to 62 radiant damage once it's automatically maxed out. And then you can add in an extra 68 force damage on top of that, which is a bit more of a random roll, but that's for your Eldritch Smite. However, since that's only once per long rest, I can't really grab that epic boon from Heroes of Faerun. Instead, I'm going to grab a different one from the same book. Really embracing the light of Kingdom Hearts, we're going to grab the Boon of the Bright Sun. This will help boost your party overall a bit more, because 1, it allows you to boost your constitution by 1 point. Then it gives you daylight presence. So as a bonus action, you radiate a 30-foot emanation of bright light that is sunlight. And if you happen to be near darkness, even if it's the darkness spell, it automatically dispels that darkness. And it gives an additional feature on top of this called Fortifying Light. So while your daylight presence is active, at the start of each of your turns, you and allies you can see in your daylight presence gain temporary hit points. It's only 10 temp HP, but it happens every single turn, which is a constantly regenerating shield of health. And that is a great way to boost up your party and all the Keyblade warriors, at least all the good ones that you want on your side. That brings us to 20th level overall. I've been wanting to build as many Smash Bros characters as possible, and so I was happy to have an excuse to rebuild Sora, since he is actually a Smash Bros character, and I needed that little dose of nostalgia while making this video. If you want access to the character sheet for this build or any of my other builds, feel free to check out my Patreon, linked in the comments and description down below. But if you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button, and I'll be here hoping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you really want to show that Kingdom Hearts is light and play as Sora in Dungeons & Dragons. And if you made it all the way here, you might like one of my other videos, which YouTube thinks you might like this one. So feel free to check it out. Hopefully it's a good one. You'll never know till you watch it. But I'm going to go team up with Sora, Donald, and Goofy and play Kingdom Hearts for the 20th time now.